श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासदि गौर भक्त वृंद की, श्री राधा कृष्ण गोप गोपीनाथ श्याम कुंड राधा कुंड श्री गिरिराज गोवर्धन की, ब्रजभूमि श्री वृंदावन धाम की, मथुरा द्वारकापुरी धाम की, नवद्वीप मायापुर धाम की, पुरुषोत्तम क्षेत्र श्री जगन्नाथपुरी धाम की। जय जगन्नाथ बलदेव सुभद्रा महारानी की, गंगा मैया जमुना मैया की जय, भक्ति देवी श्रीमती तुलसी महारानी की, समवेत गौर भक्त वृंद की, हरे कृष्ण महामंत्र की, कलयुग पावन गोलोक के प्रेम धन युग धर्म श्री हरि नाम संकीर्तन की। शिल प्रभुपाद गुरु पूजा की, शिल प्रभुपाद बुक डिस्ट्रीब्यूशन मैराथन की जय, निताय गौर प्रेमानंदे। All glories to assemble devotees, all glories to assemble devotees, all glories to assemble devotees, all glories, all glories, all glories to Sri Guru and Sri Gauranga Gaur Hari Bol.
जय राधा माधवा जय कुंज विहारी, राधा माधवा जय विहारी, जय राधा माधवा जय कुंज विहारी, जय गोपी जनवल्लभा जय गिरिवरधारी, यशोदनन्दन व्रजजनरञ्जन, यशोदनन्दन व्रजजनरञ्जन, यमुनतीरवनचारी, यमुनतीरवनचारी, जय राधा माधवा जय कुंज विहारी, ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। नारायणं नमस्कृत्यं नरं चैव नरोत्तमं देवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासं ततो जयमुदीरयेत् नष्टप्रायेषु भद्रेषु नित्यं भागवतसेवया भगवतीरुत्तमश्लोके भक्तिर्भवति नैष्टिके कृष्णाय वासुदेवाय देवकीनन्दनाय च नन्दगोपकुमाराय गोविन्दाय नमो नमः. Hare Krishna. Reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 3rd, Chapter 2nd, chapter entitled Remembrance of Lord Krishna. Text 11. Pradarshaya tapta tapasam avitripta drisham rinam आदायांतर अदात्यस्तु स्वबिंबं लोकलोचनम् प्रदर्शया तप्त तपसाम् अवितृप्तादृशां नृणाम् आदायांतर अदात्यस्तु स्वबिंबं लोकलोचनम् प्रदर्शया तप्त तपसाम् अवितृप्तादृशां नृणाम् आदायांतर अदाद्यस्तु स्वबिंबं लोकलोचनम्. अवितृप्तादृशां नृणाम् आदायांतरदाद्यस्तु स्वबिंबं लोकलोचनम् प्रदर्शया तप्ततपसाम् अवितृप्तादृशां नृणाम् आदायांतरदाद्यस्तु स्वबिंबं लोकलोचनम् प्रदर्शया तप्ततपसाम् अवितृप्तादृशां नृणाम् आदायांतरदाद्यस्तु स्वबिंबं लोकलोचनम्. Mataji's word to word entrance. प्रदर्शया तप्त तपसाम् अवितृप्तादृशां नृणाम् आदायांतरदाद्यस्तु स्वबिंबं लोकलोचनम्. Word to word. Pradarshaya, by exhibiting. Atapta, without undergoing. Tapasam, penances. Avitripta drisham, without fulfillment of vision. Nrinam, of persons. Adaya, taking. Antaha, disappearance. Adat, performed. Yah, he who. Tu, but. Swabimbam, his own form. Lokalochanam, public vision. Translation and purport by Srila Prabhupada. Translation. Lord Sri Krishna, who manifested his eternal form before the vision of all on the earth, performed his disappearance by removing his form from the sight of those who were unable to see him as he is due to not executing required penances. Purport. In this verse, the word avitripta drisham is most significant. The conditioned souls in the material world are all trying to satisfy their senses in various ways, but they have failed to do so because it is impossible to be satisfied by such efforts. The example of the fish on the land is very appropriate. If one takes a fish from the water and puts in on the land, it cannot be made happy by any amount of offered pleasure. The spirit soul can be happy only in the association of the supreme living being, the personality of Godhead, and nowhere else. The Lord, by his unlimited causeless mercy, has innumerable Vaikuntha planets in the Brahmajyoti sphere of the spiritual world, and in that transcendental world, there is an unlimited arrangement for the unlimited pleasure of the living entities. The Lord himself comes to display his transcendental pastimes, typically represented at Vrindavan, Mathura, and Dwaraka. He appears just to attract the conditioned soul back to Godhead, back home to the eternal world. But for want of sufficient piety, the onlookers are not attracted by such pastimes of the Lord. In Bhagavad Gita, it is said that only those who have completely surpassed the ways of sinful reactions can engage themselves in the transcendental loving service of the Lord. The entire Vedic way of ritualistic performance is to put every conditioned soul on the path of piety. By strict adherence to the prescribed principles for all orders of the social life, one can attain the qualities of truthfulness, control of mind, control of senses, forbearance, etc., and can be elevated to the plane of rendering pure devotional service to the Lord. Only by such a transcendental vision are one's material hankerings fully satisfied. When the Lord was present, persons who were able to satisfy their material hankerings by seeing him in true perspective were thus able to go back with him to his kingdom. But those persons who were unable to see the Lord as he is remained attached to the material hankerings and were not able to go back home, back to Godhead. When the Lord passed beyond the vision of all, he did so in his original eternal form, as stated in this verse. The Lord left in his own body. He did not leave his body, as is generally misunderstood by the conditioned souls. This statement defeats the false propaganda of the faithless non-devotees that the Lord passed away like an ordinary conditioned soul. The Lord appeared in order to release the world from the undue burden of the non-believing asuras, and after doing this, he disappeared from the world's eyes. Jai Shri Prabhupada ki jai. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjanashalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamsha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitamsha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Rishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Haripriye Vancha Kalpatarubhyasya Kripa Sindhubhya eva cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Pristhaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pashyatya Deshatarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. Welcome everyone for the Bhagavatam class. So we are in the section In the third canto, a section where Uddhava is, Vidura is meeting Uddhava and the discussions are going on. The second canto started with the 10 topics of Bhagavatam, Sarga, Visarga, and we were discussing about the Sarga part, all the creation. And suddenly, in the discussion of the creation part, the wonderful past tense of Lord is being inserted or entered into this. Because this is a speciality of Bhagavatam. Whatever topic is being described, the Lord's pastimes are being intermingled or added to that. So so as we know the sequence, essentially Vidura was in his travels and he meets Uddhava. He goes to Prabhas, and there he already understands that Yadus have left this planet. But then he meets Uddhava, and still out of separation and of a little hope, he just asks, how are the Yadavas? He takes name of each and every one and he goes on asking. So after asking all that, the Vidura, Uddhava, he remembers the Lord and he goes into deep meditation. The second chapter started with the deep meditation of Uddhava. So you'll just see the small sequence how this goes. In the second chapter, first 6 verses, it talks about the exalted position of Uddhava, how he went into meditation for one muhurta, that is 48 hours, he went into deep trance, just remembering the past tense of Lord, just when Vidura has inquired about him. And then from the verse number 7 to 11, from the 7, the Uddhava starts speaking. So Uddhava was being asked, how are the Yadus? So one simple answer could have been, no, they have left this planet, they are no more. But the Uddhava doesn't give direct answer like that. So he, first 5 verses, 7 to 11, he speaks about the Tattva. What is the position of the Yadavas? What is the position of Krishna? Who is Krishna and who are Yadavas? So first 5 verses, 7 to 11, the 11th is the last verse of that section, is the philosophical part of what Uddhava is presenting. And then from tomorrow onwards, the 12th verse onwards, the entire second chapter and entire third chapter, what happens is the remembrance of Uddhava. Uddhava is remembering Krishna's various pastimes, what all Krishna has done and what feelings the activities of Krishna has evoked in Uddhava. So that deep remembrance, and it is essentially the service in separation that Uddhava just shows. So this 5 verses that Uddhava speaks about little tattva, about the pastimes of Krishna and his living, can be summarized simply like in the 7th verse, Uddhava compared Krishna to the sun. Sun has set. When a sun is not visible in front of us, that means sun is there, but only we are not able to see. So Krishna is just not in front of us. And the verse number 8 and 9, Uddhava speaks about the unfortunate position of Yadavas. They were so close to Krishna, but they are not able to understand Krishna. So that's what Uddhava starts presenting in these 2 verses. He says, he compares the fish in the ocean are unable to identify the moon, which is also there with them. So they could not identify Krishna. So how unfortunate these people are, he says. But how unfortunate, and the next verse he says, the Yadavas are not like the ordinary conditioned souls who are not able to understand Krishna. So ordinary conditioned soul thinks somebody like Duryodhan, Dhritarashtra or Duryodhan, Dushashan, they all think he is a small Mayavi, some Mayavi, he is an ordinary person. But Yadavas are not like that. So what does it mean when Uddhava says that Yadus are not understanding? So in the next verse, in the verse 9, he says, Yadavas were able to understand Krishna as a super soul, the Paramatma who is residing in everybody's heart. He is the same Narayan who has taken incarnation and is doing lot of pastimes, and he is the one who has come to relieve the earth of the burden of this impious kings. So that part they are able to understand. But there is something that Yadavas are not able to understand, and that which Uddhava got a glimpse. Uddhava was been sent to Vrindavan, and there he got a glimpse of how Vrajavasis were dealing with Krishna. So he says that Vrajavasis are dealing with Krishna in his Swayam Bhagavan form. Ishvara Parama Krishnastu Bhagavan Swayam. The Krishna is a Swayam Bhagavan, and he is the supreme personality of Godhead, and he can reciprocate with the all loving dealings of the devotees in a very intimate way. And here with Uddhava is just feeling, even though Yadavas were so close to Krishna, they could not understand this aspect of Krishna and how unfortunate Yadavas are. So when Uddhava says Yadavas are unfortunate, it is not like a materialistic people, but it is that they are not understood the pure devotional or the highest form. And in the next verse, yesterday's not before it was taken, it says that the devotees are not bewildered by the pastimes of Krishna. The Krishna disappearance pastimes are completely bewildering. It appears all the Yadavas are fought among themselves, and Krishna also left some body. And then, but here it says, the intelligent people, the devotees who are totally in absorption of Krishna, they can never get bewildered by these pastimes. And then the today's verse comes, that is, Dashyat tapta tapasam avitripta drisham ninam adayantar adatyastu soimbam loka lochanam. And this verse appears little cryptic, so we'll go through this verse, what this verse is going to speak and what Uddhava is presenting here. So basically here Prabhupada's translation says, Lord Sri Krishna, who manifested his eternal form before the vision of all on the earth, performed his disappearance by removing his form from the sight of those who were unable to see him as he is due to not executing required penances. So why they are not able to see him as he is? Because they have not executed required penances. And then these are 2 points that Prabhupada is speaking in the translation. And one more point comes here, it's he performed his disappearance by removing his form. Swabimbam lokalochanam adayantar adatyasta. So there are 3 main verses that which words that which come here. First is avitripta drisham, atapta tapasam, and then it is swabimbam. So we'll just see the whole presentation in these 3 aspects. So we will take the avitripta drisham. It says, without fulfillment of vision. It says, because they were not able to understand Krishna properly, they were not able to see Krishna properly. They were seeing Krishna in the materialistic vision, and they were not getting any fulfillment to the eyes. So Prabhupada writes in the purport, a conditioned soul is always constantly trying to get happiness through the material happiness, and the material things cannot give any happiness to the spirit soul. Prabhupada gives a example of the fish out of water. The fish which is out of water, it cannot be satisfied by any amount of pleasure. So there is one more example that was spoken from the same Vyasa son recently. So I will take that example to see. It said that there was one preacher who was just very heavily in his duties throughout the day, and towards the end of the day he went to rest, and before that he took heavy dinner, and he did not drink water. And then he was feeling thirsty, but he was so tired that he just slept. And then he was feeling thirsty. The body is asking for water. And he is so tired that he cannot get up. So what happened? He got a dream. That in the dream he got up. He walked to the water filter. And then he is taking the water and he is drinking. And he relates, he drinking glasses and glasses of water is being drunk. But still there is no satisfaction. The thirst is not satisfied. Because the thirst is coming from the physical body and the water is given to a imaginary body in the dream. So the water that which is given is not reaching the body. Similarly, the material pleasure that we are getting in this world doesn't reach the spirit soul. Because the matter and spirit are completely different. Bhagavad Gita says, Yahi samsparshaja bhoga dukkha yonaya evate. The bhoga, the happiness in this material world, comes from the contact of the senses with the sense objects. And when the contact of the senses and sense object happens, there is a small titillation, there is a secretion of some hormones, and then that is taken as a happiness. And this doesn't touch the spirit soul. So then there is no happiness, real happiness that which is coming. And ultimately this happiness or material happiness only leads to the further sufferings of this world. So that's why Prabhupada here asks everybody to come out of this material hankering and then look for the spiritual happiness. So material happiness can be said like material happiness is a lie, L-I-E. It is limited in its resources. It is insubstantial. It cannot satisfy fully. And it has an ending. So somebody who is hankering after the material happiness, somebody who thinks that this material happiness can give me satisfaction, can take me away from the disturbance that the soul is actually feeling in the separation of Krishna, being away from Krishna, he is never be satisfied. There is first avitrupta. The person will never be satisfied as long as one is searching for the happiness in this material world. So the Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, so to attain the peace, to come out of this dissatisfied state, so one should do the devotional service. We have heard it so many times. Bhoktaram yajnatapasam sarvaloka maheshwanam surudam sarvabhutanam jnatva mam shanti mruchyate. So one who comes to the Krishna and understands him as the supreme controller, he is the enjoyer of all the things, and he is the supreme well-wisher of everyone. That is the place where we actually attain the peace. In contrast to the material happiness, the spiritual happiness or the contact with the Krishna, it actually reduces the sufferings. Kunti Devi in her letter to Krishna also writes, Shrutva gunan bhuvana sundara srunvatam te nirvishya karna vivarai haratonga tapam. Harato anga tapam. The heat that which is there in the body is reducing. The material happiness or the hankering for the material happiness in this world only increases the heat. But when it comes to Krishna and one wants to satisfy his senses through Krishna, the heat in the body reduces. So one becomes peaceful. So now, go to the next stage. So suppose the devotees, they come to the temple or come to the Krishna. Sometimes people, they come and sit in the temple and say, oh Prabhu, here I am finding peace. I am getting shanti milta hai. But what do they ask for? They ultimately ask for some material benefits from Krishna. So in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, Krishna Kaviraj Goswami speaks about the thoughts of Krishna. So he says, oh, this person has come to me and he is doing devotional service, but still he is asking for the material benefit. He is a fool. He does not know what to be asked for. Let him be fool, but I am not fool. Krishna is saying. He may be asking for the material benefit, but why should I give him any material benefits? I will give him my own devotional service. And from there he will get a higher spiritual happiness. So Krishna is not a fool in that sense. So Krishna, even though the devotee comes and asks for the material benefits, In the plea of giving some material happiness also, Krishna gives an opportunity to serve his lotus feet, and then he gives a spiritual happiness. So from there, a devotee or a conditioned soul starts getting a higher taste in the spiritual realm. So in the Bhagavatam, a verse comes, Parijata Anjasa Labda Saranga Anyonya Sevate Tadangri Mula Masadya Sakshat Kim Kim Vranimahe. So Saranga, the bumblebee, is searching for various flowers. It is searching for honey in various flowers. So it is not satisfied. But when it reaches a Parijata flower, it is completely satisfied. It doesn't leave from that flower and go anywhere else. So it says that Parijata flower is not found in this world. Parijata flower is found in the spiritual world. It is some kind of a wish-fulfilling tree. It has an unlimited capacity to give the honey. So Krishna's lotus feet are like that. When one comes to the Krishna and starts serving him and starts to try to taste happiness from Krishna, he gets more and more happiness. And what does the bumblebee do from there? It starts tasting the honey more and more. Saranga Anyonya Sevate. And it doesn't go anywhere else, and it just stays at that flower itself. So how whatever amount of capacity honey that the honeybee may want, it can be completely provided by the Parijata tree. So that is the capacity of the lotus feet of Krishna. So first is the material unsatisfaction, avitrupta, and when the second level is someone comes to the spiritual life and he feels satisfied and peace. And then there is the next stage. The devotees are not satisfied doing just little service or not just doing little harikatha. They want more. They want more. So that is also an unsatisfaction that devotees feel. Why only so much? Rupa Goswami relates here, he says, Tunde Tandavani Ratim Vinute. So Rupa Goswami says, I want thousands and thousands of ears, I want thousands and thousands of mouths. I want thousands of mouths so that I can chant the Lord, holy names of the Lord more and more. I want thousands of ears so that I can hear more and more. So, in the progress, the conditioned soul was started from the avitrupta, unsatisfied with the material things. Coming to the spiritual life, it is conditioned soul is satisfied. But when it gets the mercy of Krishna, the specific mercy, when Krishna goes little ahead and let me give this conditioned soul my own taste of the lotus feet. What is the conditioned soul is not satisfied with little service. The conditioned soul wants to do more and more service. Conditioned soul wants to hear and more. So it reaches a next level, that is avitrupta. This pure devotees, they are also avitrupta. So that is a hidden meaning that goes into this verse. So what does the avitrupta mentioned over here, it means? The Prabhupada in his translation, he picks up the conditioned soul who are not satisfied because they are thinking Krishna as an ordinary soul, ordinary entity, and they are looking at Krishna as a mere material form, and because of that they are not satisfied. And because of that he has been taken away. The Krishna took his form from their vision. But the next meaning that which comes is, this also speaks about the pure devotees of the Lord who are not satisfied by doing just little service to the Lord. They want more and more. So, Vishnu Thakur writes, to increase the attachment of the devotees more and more, what Krishna does is he takes away his form from the vision of the devotees. So, devotees want to do service, or devotees want to have the darshan of the Lord, and when the Lord is not in front of them, their attraction for the Lord increases multifold. So this is a theme of Bhagavatam everywhere. So recently somebody was telling the whole section, every speaker is speaking about Vrindavan. Why? because the whole mood is about the Vrindavan. The Vrindavan is about service in separation. Krishna is somewhere far away, and then the gopis, all the Vrajavasis are constantly thinking about Krishna. And here also Uddhava is far away from Krishna, he is not in front of him, and he is constantly thinking. And here Avitripta Drusham, the Vishnu Chakravarti Thakur writes, to increase the attachment of the pure devotees, Krishna has taken his form from their vision. So there is a two levels it comes. And we'll talk about the next word that which comes is about the atapta tapasam. So Prabhupada also writes, atapta tapasam is without undergoing penances. So Prabhupada writes here, why a conditioned soul is not able to understand Krishna as he is and in his spiritual form? Because he says the conditioned soul is not doing sufficient amount of tapasya. So for any living entity, the tapasya is needed. So we hear the words, Aradito yadihari tapasa tada kim, Naradito yadihari tapasa tada kim, Antar bahir yadihari tapasa tada kim, Naantar bahir yadihari tapasa tada kim. Sometimes devotees give this example and say, Prabhu, no need of doing any tapasya. We are already devotees. But to go a little deeper, Aradito yadihari tapasa tadakyam. If you are already worshipping the Lord, Antar bahir yadihari. If you are inside and outside, if the Supreme Lord is already staying, if your words, deeds, thoughts are all focused on the Krishna, why you have to do extra tapasya? That's what it is, verse is saying. And second is, if your intention is not to worship Krishna, Naradito yadihari, or Na antar bahir yadihari. If you are not intended to worship Krishna, then why are you wasting your time by just doing some tapasya? So we are not at the two ends. So one end is the person who has no inclination of doing any service to Krishna, but he is doing tapasya. And other end is pure devotees of the Lord who are completely in the touch with Krishna. For both of them, tapasya is of no use. But we fall somewhere in between, where our senses are being dragged by this material sense gratification. And then, but we have heard from the spiritual masters that the goal of the life is to serve the Supreme Lord. So we have a task of controlling the senses and pulling it back to the Supreme Lord. So we do need to do some tapasya. So tapasya is sufficiently emphasized also when Brahmaji gives darshan, when Krishna gives darshan to Brahmaji. There also he says, I create this entire world by tapasya. I am very happy by your tapasya. So he glorifies Brahmaji for doing the tapasya. So tapasya is needed or important comes there. In Bhagavad Gita, Prabhupada writes, Prabhupada quotes over here, Yesham tu antagatam papam jananam punya karmanam te dvanda moha nirmukta bhajante mam dridavrata. So somebody who has completely been purified by all the papa. So how does that be done? By doing sufficient amount of tapasya. So Prabhupada writes over here, there are various things given. The whole Vedic, the entire Vedic way of ritualistic performance is to put every conditioned soul on this path of piety. The Vedic ways is about doing tapasya. The dharmic way of living is about doing tapasya. The conditioned soul wants to do sense gratification. We heard the spirits, pure devotees, they don't do sense gratification. So what does the conditioned soul who is in between they do? We want something for our maintenance of the senses, but at the same time, we know that this is not the perfect. So that's where the whole dharmic way of life comes. The Vedas, they say, you lead a life as a gratitude towards your family, towards your society, towards the life around, as a gratitude towards the environment, as a gratitude towards the teachers who have given your knowledge, the fine kind of rina that the Vedas, they speak. By doing this tapasya, that which is given in the Vedas, the Prabhupada says one comes to the level of piety. By strict adherence to the prescribed principles of all orders of the social life, one can attain the qualities of truthfulness, control of senses, control of mind, forbearance, etc., and can be elevated to the plane of rendering pure devotional service to the Lord. So by doing these things, one becomes qualified to come to the level of pure devotional service. So Bhagavatam also says, Dharma swanastita pumsha vishvakshena katasuyat na utpadayet yadirati shramayeva hi kevalam. The meaning is, when one is doing all the aspects of dharma, when one is not gaining the rati, the love for the Supreme Lord, what is the use? It is just shrama. So, but then is another way of understanding also. One is asked to do the various aspects of dharma so that one develops the rati for the Supreme Lord. Whether it is karma yoga, whether it is jnana yoga, whether it is ashtanga yoga, everything has bhakti as an element in it. So in our Gita course also we say there's a long process of advancement. At the end one comes to the level of bhakti. So all the Vedic way is given one to bring to the level of bhakti. So without the sufficient amount of tapasya, we will not be able to actually understand the Supreme Lord and His glories. So as devotees we sing every day 3 times, Mahaprasade Govinde. What is that? Last. Swalpa punyam vatam rajan vishvaso naiva jayat. Somebody who has a very meager punya, one who is tapasya is not sufficient, he will not be able to understand the glories of the Supreme Lord, the Mahaprasadam and the Vaishnavas. So, like that, the tapasya is very important for a conditioned soul and a sadhaka also. In Bhagavad Gita, 6th chapter, while Krishna is speaking about the yogi who is leaving the body, he says, Bhaktya yukto yoga balena chaiva. So Prabhupada speaks about what is this yoga balena. The particular use of word yoga bala is significant in this verse because without practice of yoga, whether Shat Chakra yoga or Bhakti yoga, one cannot come to the transcendental state of being at the time of death. So at the time of death, if one has to be in the transcendental stage, one has to do that tapasya of going through the sadhana. So various paths have various heavy, tough sadhana, bodily tough. When you come to the devotional service, we also have a lot of sadhana, doing chanting 16 rounds, following 4 regulative principles, serving in the association of devotees, which essentially a tapasya for the ego. So tapasya is at the level of body, tapasya is at the level of controlling the mind, tapasya is at the level of controlling the ego. So when one does this tapasya, then one actually becomes qualified to come to understand, to see the Supreme Lord. So Prabhupada here mentions that a normal conditioned soul have not done that particular amount of tapasya, so they are not able to see Krishna in his original form as he is. So they are not able to actually appreciate the Krishna's form. And because of that, the Krishna said, okay, why do he be here? Let me just remove my form. And Krishna went. But here, avitrupta drisham, the one who is not satisfied by seeing, also means the devotees also, pure devotees. So what does the atapta tapasam, not doing tapasya, for a devotee mean? So Vishnu Thakur writes that specifically the form of Krishna, it cannot be gained by one's tapasya. So although now I have been saying you should do tapasya for coming to the Lord, but at the same time we understand that our tapasya is not alone in getting the darshan of the Lord or getting the service of the Lord. So Damodar Lila we see there are 2 fingers too short. So one finger is our effort, another finger is Krishna's mercy. So Atapta tapasa here, it says that the vision of the avitrupta, the not being fully satisfied by having a little bit of association of Krishna, you wanting more and more, that particular stage, a devotee gets only by the mercy of Krishna. So it is not obtained by tapasa. So the hankering that a devotee gets is not by tapasya in that form. The Vishnu Chakravarti Thakur writes that even the pure devotees who have got that hankering to see the Lord more and more is not because of tapasya, atapta tapasya. So in that form, it talks about the pure devotees over there. So, but here, one point attracted me was, even Vishnu Chakravarti Thakur also writes in one sentence that he took away his forms from the ordinary vision of ordinary people. And then Vishnu Chakravarti Thakur writes, oh, this is about ordinary vision, ordinary understanding. And he gives a deeper understanding. But Prabhupada does not go into the deeper understanding of pure devotees having that unsatiation by seeing Krishna. The Prabhupada focuses more on the need of doing tapasya. Because Prabhupada, as a spiritual master for this world, for the ISKCON, he knows what this current people in this material world they need. More than the thoughts about what the pure devotees are doing, we are supposed to be told what we are supposed to do. That's why Prabhupada focuses more on what we are supposed to do. That is, to do tapasya and become qualified for seeing the Supreme Lord. So, that also I got a little appreciation with the Prabhupada's purpose over here. And then the next point over here, it comes about the Krishna took away his form. Swabimbam lokalochanam. It says, Vishnu Chakravarti Thakur quotes this verse and says that this verse shows that Krishna's living this world is not like an ordinary living entity. So Prabhupada also mentions here. When the Lord passed beyond the vision of all, he did so in his original eternal form as stated in this verse. So if you see the normal Leela, how the Maushala Leela happened, all the Yadavas were taken to the Prabhasa Kshetra and then they had a fratricidal war. They fought among themselves and then they left and Krishna was sleeping at one place and then Jara comes and he hits an arrow and then Krishna leaves his body. It also says Krishna left a material form karke bhi aata hai. And that becomes completely bewildering to everyone. So we'll just take quickly what does that mean. So firstly the Acharya says that Yadavas are always very respectful to the Brahmanas. So the Yadavas disrespecting the Brahmanas and getting cursed is only one in their whole history. Like we see the Parikshit was also very respectful to the Brahmanas and he disrespected Brahmanas only once and he got cursed. So that is not his natural state, cursing the, disrespecting the Brahmanas. Similarly, the Yadavas disrespecting the Brahmanas is also not the natural thing. The Samyaka Rishi, when he came to know that Shringi has cursed, he said, why did you do? You should not have cursed. This is a small thing. But here the same sages could have said, this is a small thing, just leave. Why to curse that entire dynasty should be destroyed? But they have cursed that the entire dynasty will be destroyed. Because they are also not acting in their natural position. Because no devotee of the Lord, no sage will dare to curse the Lord and his associates. So it is just a plea of what it is happening. So just to see the instances, it is said that there are a lot of demigods who also taken part in the Krishna Leela. In the associates of the Krishna, in the Yadus, there are a lot of demigods also. And all these demigods have to be sent back to their respective abodes for doing their services. So Krishna has finished all his activities of Paritranaya sadhuna vinashaya dushkutam. And then he is ready to leave this world. And then he says, along with me, all these yadus also have to be taken. So Krishna says, yadus are also a burden to this world. Because in the absence of yadus, so in the absence of Krishna, what will yadus go through? They will almost go mad and they may trample on the whole earth. So now in the absence of Krishna, the Uddhava is going into such a trance. And what would have happened to the whole yadus without the presence of Krishna? So Krishna says, no, let us all go back home, back to Godhead. Wind up everything. So they could have gone directly from the Dwaraka in a Vaikuntha Viman. But they don't do like that. He says, no, they have to leave their body and they have to go. Because there are the demigods who were there. It said that if somebody leaves their body in the Dwaraka, because it is a dham, he will directly go to the spiritual world. But the demigods, they were supposed to go to their abodes and do their duties. So they have to leave body outside Dwaraka. So the scene was set at the Prabhasa Kshetra. And then the question comes, why they have to do a fratricidal war and fight among themselves? Because it is said that no force in this world can destroy Yadus. No king can fight. There is no army which can fight with Yadus. At the same time, even the time factor cannot affect them. The Janma, Mrityu, Jara, Vyadhi cannot affect them. So while speaking to the Yamadutas, Yamaraj says, Naicham Vayam Nacha Vayah. Not even I and not even the time factor can destroy these devotees. Now what to speak of Yadavas who are so close to Krishna. So Yamaraj cannot touch them. Even the time factor cannot make them old and they cannot die like that. So there is only things left is that they have to fight among themselves and they have to live. So that is a scene that which has been created over there. But the question still is, why so ghastly? So then, and why so much of confusions being raised because of this whole instance? So Vishnu Chakra Thakur brings about the whole verse, says from Bhagavad Gita, says, Moghasha Moga Karmana Moga Jnana Vichetasam Rakshashim Asurim Chaiva Prakritim Vidhima Ansutam. So Krishna speaks about the demoniac people who think Krishna's body to be a material. Avajananti Maam Modha Manushim Tanumashita. The Mudas who are unintelligent, they think that Krishna has taken a material form, and after taking the material form, he is doing a lot of pastimes. Avajananti Maam Modha Manushim Tanumashritam. So what is the result of such a thought? He says, Moghasha, Moga Karmano, Moga Jnana. All of the karma that they are doing, all of their materialistic advancement, or the endeavor for the materialistic advancement will be ruined. All of their jnana, moga jnana, all of their spiritual practices, that will go vain. For that desire for moksha will go into vain. And what is the moga asha? He says, somebody is doing devotional service. That is Shravanam, Kirtanam, Smaranam, they are in the process. But if they think that Krishna's body is material, even their practices will not give them the sufficient, the desired results. That also will go in vain. So this is the verse that Vishnu Chakra Thakur quotes there. And he says, this was needed. And to create that confusion, Krishna did that. So just to go back. So after the Kurukshetra war, Yudhishthira Maharaj became king and he was ruling the whole planet Earth. So it is said that when Yudhishthira Maharaj was ruling the kingdom for all, say, 36 years, the dharma was standing in its 4 legs and it was appearing as if the Satya Yuga has come. So after the Dwapara Yuga, the Kali Yuga is supposed to come. But the Kali Yuga is not able to enter because Kali Yuga can enter only after Dwapara Yuga. Kali Yuga cannot enter with Satya Yuga in the place. Only after the three legs of dharma being broken, the Kali Yuga can enter. So he said that after Dwapara Yuga, the Kali Yuga is supposed to start, but because the Yudhishthira Maharaj rule is so nice and the whole Satya Yuga atmosphere is there, so Kali Yuga is unable to start. And then he says, if Krishna just leaves the planet, the Kali can enter. He says, no, because Yudhishthira Maharaj is there, the Kali cannot enter. And then he says, so only way how the Kali can enter is when the dharma reduces. And the only way dharma can reduce is when the people of this world do offense towards the Supreme Lord. This is the whole purpose of enacting this whole Moshala Lila pastime in such a way is to give chance to the Kali Yuga to enter, so that the people of unintelligent people who will get bewildered, and then you start speaking that Krishna is also ordinary person. See, he also left his body. All the Yadavas also got cursed because of their immoral activities. They will start speaking in this way, and then their piety will reduce, or whatever spiritual sadhana they are doing, they will not get any benefit from that. So finally, Vishnu Chakur Thakur says that the whole point of doing that was because of for allowing the Kali Yuga to happen, because so that we all will get chance to take birth over here. Otherwise, we will not get chance to take birth or do our devotional services, or the next incarnation of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and the holy name, everything is going to come. So for that, Kali Yuga has to come. So, but this verse, it clearly says, Swabimbam. He has taken out his form. So it is not that he has left his form over here and his form is something different. So it says that Krishna has taken out his form. So what was the form that which is being seen in front of all the conditions of the living entities in this material world when he was present was his original self-same form. So that is spoken in this verse, and he takes up that form. With this emotional part, the more main importance comes is about to understanding the activities of the Lord in its true essence. Janma karma chame divyam evam yoveti tattvataha. So when one understands the activities of Krishna in tattvataha, that's when our spiritual practices will actually be fruitful. So that is one important point from this last point. So just summarizing, so there's a section where Uddhava is just giving some philosophical understanding before going into the deep remembrance of various pastimes. So with various things that Uddhava said, in this verse he spoke about the things that Krishna has removed his form from the vision of this world. And there are two people. One is the ordinary people who are not able to see Krishna properly because they have not done sufficient amount of tapasya. So from them he has taken away his form. And secondly, the devotees who have got the vision of that form even without doing tapasya, by the mercy of the Lord, for them to increase their attachment, Krishna has taken away his form. So with that, two things Uddhava says this, and next from tomorrow onwards he goes into the meditation on the pastimes of Krishna. So I will stop here. If any comments, we'll take one. Okay. Granthraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Hare Krishna. So Prabhu, just one doubt I had. Just now you said because the dharma was at its peak when Yudhishthira Maharaj was there. And again to Kali to come, again dharma has to be reduced to certain extent. But then why all that Kurukshetra war had to be conducted so that dharma can be reinstated?
This is after Kurukshetra war, na?
Yeah, but then Lord has appeared just to bring back the dharma, and entire Kurukshetra was done because righteous kings should be again, they should be given the throne. But then again, then for Kali to come back, dharma had to be brought to that level. So this was just so entire efforts.
Establishing dharma, Krishna only doing, and establishing adharma also Krishna, in one sense Krishna is only doing. Because at the end of the day it is a plan of Krishna. Satya, Treta, Dwapara, Kali, all the yugas should pass and all the living entities should get opportunity to go out of this material world. Performing perfectly dharmic activities and staying in this material world is not the perfection of the human life. The human life perfection is to go back home, back to Godhead. In Satya, Treta, Dwapara, various different paths were there. And in Kali Yuga also, the path of going back home, back to Godhead is given. That is Harinama Sankirtan. For that to come, for giving that chance, all that needs to happen. And for that to happen, Krishna himself comes and takes it ahead. That's how I understand. Thank you. Hare Krishna. Jai. Granthiraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.